Hello and welcome to part 2 of an introduction to Photoshop, a FusionExtreme.com Photoshop tutorial. We're going to take you through another part of Photoshop today, in the second part of the tour as you get familiar with Photoshop. We're going to start up here. We're going to cover these tools right up here. A little bit about what this is about. File. What File does is basically just like in Word, you open or close a file, or just like in any other program. You can open or close a file, open recent files. You can do several different things. Bridge we'll cover a little bit later. Save as, different types of files. Save for a web or a device like your iPhone, whatever. You can import files, export files. Automate is interesting. You can save a batch of files or save a PDF presentation. You can create a droplet. I'm not going to go ahead and get into that. Crop and straighten photos. You can create a contact sheet. That's basically a sheet of a bunch of different thumbnails of your images. A picture package if you're a professional photographer and want to create some different packages like 5x7s and 8x10s. A web photo gallery. You can even create like a little website for your of your images. There are all kinds of different neat little things here that you can do. Scripts are different things that you can set up. Lots of different little tools here. I'm not going to get too detailed because they're all pretty advanced. File info gives you all the information on the current file that you have open. Page setup, print is obvious, you know what that means, print one, copy. Edit does all kinds of things. You have an undo just like you would in Word, step forward, step backwards. You can fade an effect if you've created an effect, which we haven't done yet. I'm not going to get into that. Cut, copy, paste. You can crop. If you've got text on there, you can check your spelling. You can find and replace the text. You can fill a certain area of an image. Last time we went through the different marquee tools where you can select an area, and here's where you can fill it with a color. Free transform. Let me explain to you what free transform is. Let's say we've selected a certain area here, this right here, and I want to do some different things with this. Let me go ahead up to edit, free transform. And what happens is, see in the corners here, you get these little boxes. You can stretch what's in that area, and you can do pretty much whatever you want here with that area, and it will redraw that right on top. That's what free transform is. Alright, now what we're going to take a look here is at, let me deselect that, transform. Let me show you what transform is. Transform is an area here where if you go to this, you can rotate a certain part of the image instead of stretching it around like we just did. You can rotate it, you can skew it or distort it. You can perspective. Perspective is interesting with text. You can make it look, and I'll show you how that works. Let me go ahead and let's type a little bit in here. Let's make it nice and big so we can really show, and I'll go through these little things. I can actually show you that right now. As I've selected that text, you can come right up here and you can, on the little drop down menu, you can choose different sizes, whatever you'd like, or we can transform. Remember we came over earlier with transform, that free transform tool like we were talking about. I can change the size here of the text. I can do whatever I want, and you have a neat little thing you can do here. If you select the text, you can come right on top of these two T's that you see right here, and you can drag right or left. Right makes the text bigger, left makes it smaller. But let's say that's where we want to go with. Now, I'm going to go back to where I said here. I'm going to go back to transform, and we are going to talk about perspective. Now, you can't change the perspective until you've rasterized the type. I know that's going to make no sense to you right now. Don't stress over that. Don't worry about it. We're getting a little complicated, but I want to at least show you what this can do. If I go up to Edit and transform and perspective, watch what happens here. Look at that, looks like it's going off in a distance here. It looks like the text is going off into a distance. Or leaning forward at the top. But that's your perspective. You can do all kinds of fun little things with this. That's how you can play with those little transform tools that you see right here. All these different transform tools. They all do something different. You can rotate that word test that we just wrote 180 degrees. You can do it clockwise. That's what the CW is for, counterclockwise. You can flip it horizontally. Look, now it's written backwards. Or if you want to, you can flip it vertically. Flips it upside down there. You can pretty much do whatever you like with that. Gives you lots of different options. I'm not going to get into defining a brush set. I will show you what your brush set is here in just a moment. Purging, I'm not going to go ahead and that's how you can clear your clipboard or things similar. This cannot be undone. Continue, you get that little warning. You have a lot of little options and opportunities here for your presets, your color settings, which get pretty complicated. I say pretty complicated, not so much that you'll never want to use them. You'll get to understand them in due time, but they're not something for you to worry about right now. Okay, your image, right here, your image tab here. Mode, you can change your image to black and white, or indexed color, which is not something you need to worry about right now. RGB or CMYK is where you'll be working mostly in RGB. But these are your different channels. This is some different stuff that you have to work with. Adjustments, you can do all kinds of things with the levels, auto levels. What auto levels does, and it does not do a great job of this. Let me get rid of everything I've done to the image here, bring it back to normal. What auto levels does is it's going to color correct, and it's going to try to figure out what it thinks is color corrected. Now, it doesn't do a fantastic job of that, to be honest with you. Sometimes it'll work okay, sometimes it won't. Auto contrast, that can work a little bit better, but if the image needs to change the contrast, that's one way you can do it. But still, if you go to levels, it's going to be a little better. I'm not going to get into this very detailed, but again, your dark areas, you can make them darker. Your mid-tone areas, the grays, the middle areas that are not completely dark, not completely light, you can make them lighter or darker. And the highlight areas, you can make them lighter. I'm not going to get too into those details right now. I'm just taking you on a tour. Let you know you don't have to be intimidated by this. Curves is another way to do the same thing that we just did with levels. It's just a little more complex. Color balance. You can change the color of an image in color balance. You can do whatever you want. Now remember how we did the selection tools where you select a certain area? You could select, let's say, her eyes, and then you could play with the color balance just by doing what we just did. Black and white, you can turn an image to black and white very easily. Right here, you've turned it to black and white, and then these things, you say there's no red in it. I understand what you're thinking. What these things will do is give you different types of contrast and different feels to the image. You can also come down here to tint. If you click on tint, it'll give you the opportunity to sepia tone your image and do different things with it, tint it however you'd like. Those are some different options. If you don't want it tinted, it won't do that. But again, you can change your contrast. You can change the general feel of an image from just all over the place. You can do pretty much whatever you'd like with your images. They give you different feels. It's a great way to help you with if you are converting, you can really clean up skin. Not that Brian needs it here, but